I think the first place to begin would be to acknowledge that I came into this world at 7:37 or 7:36 p.m. and by midnight I was getting circumcised. Right.
Wow.
So I think that when we look at
Mhm.
childhood sexual trauma, I think what we have to first begin with and start with, at least from my perspective, is what are the ways in which our body was objectified and treated with unkindness and uncare from the very beginning? Because I think that I teach a map basically, and this is a more of a mythopoetic map. It's not like a capital T truth, but the map is that the way that a man treats his penis is the way that he treats everyone and everything in the world.
Mm, mm,
And so why I share that is that the way that my penis was treated before I had agency, before I had even an ego formation,
mm,
impacted the way that I treated it as I was coming of age, and then subsequently how I treat the world. So what I mean by that is if I am objectifying my own body by
mm,
using my penis to feel better,
mm,
what is invisible to me in my own shadow, and I think this is the masculine dark shadow, really this is an archetypal darkness, but the way that I treat this is the way that I treat the feminine, it's the way that I treat nature, it's the way that I do business. So using self as a means to an end creates the shadow frequency, which uses others as a means to an end too. And I think that's how trauma perpetuates itself over generations and through culture over thousands of years.
mm, mm,
And
mm,
doing plant medicine work has helped me to get in touch with the the the, the reality that original trauma as I've re-entered it and moved through it and felt it began really with the circumcision.
mm,
And I just want to acknowledge that when my father's generation, it was 90% of men in America were getting circumcised. Now it's about 55%. So we're trending in the right direction, in my opinion.
mm,
Um, and if you're out there and you're a woman and you have a son and you've circumcised him, I don't want to create any more guilt or any more pressure for you that you've sexually traumatized your son. This is something that's been happening for thousands of years across many different cultures and many different ethnic backgrounds and religions. And most women's birthrights to their own sons and daughters was taken from them by the church or by the state or by doctors.
mm,
So I think we need to just call awareness to the mutilation of children's genitals is the first sexual trauma that
mm,
most men face.
mm,
And that does set up a lot of unconscious behaviors as we progress in our adolescence and our development.
mm. Yeah, thank you for sharing that and also bringing awareness to it. It's not something that I have experienced myself, and it feels so costly given and I want to also speak to this relationship with one's own penis, a man's relationship with his penis. And that for me has been the most significant shift in the last 2 years of my life is how I relate to my penis. And I treat my penis like the most innocent, tender, delicate part of me, which it truly is in a way, like physically. And there is just this like level of care that I've never had before. And prior to recovering the memories, it was just an organ to either stick into a vagina or like yank for sexual pleasure. It was just something that I accessed whenever I needed pleasure, which itself was perpetuating how my perpetrators saw my body and my penis. So yeah, use this to. So I was like perpetuating that same way of behavior within myself, self-abusing in some ways. And I can't even imagine what it would be like to experience the slicing off of the tip of the penis within a few hours of being born. This has been a very active exploration for me around the normalized ways of treating children that are leading to childhood sexual trauma, like societally normalized ways. And the most obvious ones are genital mutilation. And I know there are countries in Africa where it is common to like slice up the clitoris, circumcision in Abrahamic cultures. But there's also more other subtle ways of treating children. And a previous guest on my podcast spoke about just the notion that the children are our property, like they belong to us. That itself like starts off a way of looking at children as, oh yeah, I can do whatever I want with them. And so that layer is the hardest to deal with, like the what is normalized by society, because it is normalized to an extent where people cannot even see alternatives. And then because we don't talk about this, I'm so grateful that you've created this men's workspace that is focused on men's sexuality. That is where we start. And because we don't talk about these, many of these normalized ways of treating children's bodies do not even like have the opportunity to rise to the surface of conversation.